A reading from Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12. The visit of the Magi. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in the territory of Judea during the rule of King Herod, Magi came from the east to Jerusalem. They asked, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We've seen his star in the east, and we've come to honor him." When King Herod heard this, he was troubled, and everyone in Jerusalem was troubled with him. He gathered all the chief priests and the legal experts and asked them where the Christ was to be born. They said, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for this is what the prophet wrote. You, Bethlehem, land of Judah, by no means are you least among the rulers of Judah, because from you will come one who governs, who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and found out from them the time when the star had first appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search carefully for the child. When you found him, report to me, so that I too may go and honor him." When they heard the king, they went, and look, the star. When they heard the king, they went, and look, the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stood over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother. Falling to their knees, they honored him. Then they opened their treasure chests and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Because they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they went back to their own country by another route. May the living word of God speak to us through these ancient words of Scripture.
So over all of Christmas, it kind of actually feels strange to say that word, Christmas, because Christmas to me feels like it was a month ago. Even just last Sunday feels like we've lived 2 whole weeks since last Sunday with having New Year's in there. But we are actually still in the Christmas season. Something that is not widely known or maybe celebrated is that the 12 days of Christmas, made famous, of course, by the song, 12 very repetitive 12 days of Christmas, is that the 12 days of Christmas start on Christmas. And so the 12 days follow Christmas. The time leading up to it, of course, is called Advent. And so the last day of the 12 days of Christmas, it always falls on January 6th, which is tomorrow, which is the day that we celebrate Epiphany. Epiphany is the story that we just read. A time when the Magi, the wise men, also known as kings, visited the child in the house where he was with his mother. As you know, we've talked a little bit about the different versions of the Bible and the way that each of them tells the story. In this particular one, if I were to quiz you how many kings, magi, or wise men there were, you might likely say 3, right? Because that is we 3 kings of Orient are. We often think about 3. It doesn't have a number in the Bible, if you notice that as we read. 3 comes a lot of times from the idea that they brought 3 gifts. And so the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh, people kind of have assumed that there are 3 gifts. Those names, by the way, that the Melchior and all those other ones that come up, those are not in the Bible either. So those are sort of folklore that developed afterwards. All of that to say that today we are celebrating this day, this Epiphany Day, where we see that star, where the wise men follow that star, the Magi follow that star, and they find the Jesus child with his mother. One of the things that strikes me so much about the fact that they did that is, how did they know that there was a new star in the sky? For us, aside from the drones, right, that have been flying around, if we look up, we see a few stars. We don't see very many stars, but take yourself back 2,000 years and imagine no light pollution. Imagine, have you ever been in a place where you can see the Milky Way with your naked eyes? Have you ever been in a place where the sky is just filled with stars? Imagine, that's the context in which they would have seen this new star. And so they were people who studied this. They were looking for it. And so when they saw this new star, they followed. That was sort of their job. They were star followers and star trackers. And so today, we are going to celebrate the star. We've done, for the past couple of years, something called Star Wars. If you haven't participated in this before, I'll tell you all about what it is right now. In this basket, I have about 100 or so different words written on stars. It looks like this. And as I talk, I'm gonna walk around with the basket, inviting you to choose a star. Don't look at the word when you choose your star. Maybe just pass it around if you would. Don't look at the word when you choose your star. You can look at the color, maybe if you want to. The idea here is that the star is kind of, the one that you choose is kind of divinely inspired. You can kind of think of it that way. Maybe as we go, you can just pass it among the tables. That the star is not necessarily meant to be, the word that's on the star is not necessarily meant to be prescriptive of what the next year is going to be like. It's meant to be invitational. So it's an invitation for you to use this star word as a guide, as maybe God saying to you, think about how this word might be relevant in your life during this year. Now, the words are tricky. There are different meanings to them. And so what we'll do in a few moments is when everybody has their star, we'll sit around our tables and talk about what the star could possibly mean for your life for this coming year. But the idea is that you take the star and you put it somewhere conspicuous. You put it somewhere where you will see it every single day, and where you will then think about what that word could possibly mean to you in that day. Some people prefer to do that in the morning and look ahead. Some people prefer to have that star at night and think as they're falling asleep, how did I see this word? How did I see my star word coming about today? Maybe on the dashboard or the desk, your desk at work, or at home, or a mirror maybe that you look into every day. But reflect on how the word has manifested itself in your life. And as I said, kind of think of it like God's hand guiding you to this particular word. And it's not meant to, as I said, be prescriptive of what is going to happen, but it's more about being mindful. More about being mindful of the ways that God might be guiding your life, or that might be illuminating certain things in your life by this star. But this star word offers us a new opportunity to explore our inner selves, to take a look at the way that our hearts are in relation to this particular word. And it is absolutely ripe with possibilities, right? There's so many things that could come out of this star, just like this new year. But I wonder how our perspective might change when we are thinking about this particular word. Okay, if you have looked at your star word, I invite you to do so. If you have not gotten one yet, it's coming your way. Please don't worry. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a few minutes to talk around our tables about our star word. So I invite you to think about what it could mean, help each other explore what kinds of possibilities it might mean as your year progresses. And then we will come back together and see if we have any insights. The table's over here, the stars are coming. The table's over here, feel free to get started. What does your star mean to you? And how might it manifest itself in your life? So Joe just asked an important question. Are the words repeated?
I asked that the words are repeated.
The words are not repeated.
So there's 100 ones, so I got the only one that says this.
Yes, so each of you got a unique word that nobody else in this room received. Would anyone like to share their word and any thoughts on it? Not required, certainly. It can be a very personal thing. I'll share mine. Mine is seeing. Seeing. And so I initially started seeing. S-E-E-I-N-G.
Oh, seeing.
Seeing. So I initially sort of think about what vision might be given to me. What might I notice? What might I sort of pick up on that I haven't seen before? So those are the kinds of things that I invite you to do with your star word. Anybody else like to share? I'd like to read to you. This is called Star Giving. It is by Anne Weems. It is a poem that I think relates very nicely to what we just did. What I'd really like to give you for Christmas is a star. Brilliance in a package. Something you could keep in the pocket of your jeans or in the pocket of your being. Something to take out in times of darkness. Something that would never snuff out or tarnish. Something you could hold in your hand. Something for wonderment. Something for pondering. Something that would remind you of what Christmas has always meant. God's advent light into the darkness of this world. but stars are only God's for giving. And I must be content to give you words and wishes and packages without stars. But I can wish you life as radiant as the star that announced the Christ child's coming, and as filled with awe as the shepherds who stood beneath its light. And I can pass on to you the love that has been given to me, ignited countless times by others who have knelt in Bethlehem's light. That is my hope for you with this star, that it reveals to you the light that the first magi that came to seek Jesus found, that it reveals to you God's guiding sense of your life, that it reveals to you a way for you to experience God that you may not have experienced God before. That is the star that I hope for you when you take this star home today. I find it interesting that today we're going to do communion together around our tables, and I'll walk you through it in just a second. But I always think of communion like a star. Communion is one of those things for me that is kind of a reset of the guiding light that my life is on, right? We know and we participate in this communion, and sometimes we do it by rote. We don't think about what we're doing. But if we think about it as God's star that shines maybe right above the communion table, always beckoning us back, always bringing us and inviting us back to the word that God speaks, the truth and the hope and the love, and maybe most importantly at the communion table, the grace. So I invite you now, as we partake in communion, to think of it as almost a reset of your path, to think of it as the star that shines for you, calling you, God calling you to the table, to be reminded of the love that God has for you, of the grace that God offers to you, and the hope that we all hold together. On the tables in front of you, you will find a couple of things. Communion is a little different during Breakfast Church. You will find a bottle of grape juice, looks just like this. You will find a little piece of bread, very caringly baked by the Evans household, thank you. You will find little cups, the little white cups on your table. I do want to say that normally we have a setup here, right? A communion chalice and bread and plates and things. And I have this big loaf that I break, and then I'm the only one who partakes in it. In this way of doing things with a very ordinary bottle, a very ordinary plastic cup, and a beautifully baked loaf of bread, it reminds me that we're all in this together, and that there is no distinction between what you're about to do and what the words that I am about to pronounce. And it reminds me that things as ordinary as a plastic cup can become sacred, can become filled with meaning when we think of them that way, just like maybe the word